The morning in Athens was quiet and calm. Before the sunlight touched the blue marble streets, a young man was already holding a hammer in his hand. His name was Socrates. He was born to a father who was a sculptor and a mother who worked as a midwife. He was simply a normal young man of Athens. His childhood was not special. He learned how to shape stone in his father's workshop, and he watched his mother help new life enter the world. He was a quiet boy who only wanted to understand life a little better. But deep inside him, a small fire was waiting to grow. Time passed, and the Peloponnesian War began. Like many young men of Athens, Socrates became a hoplite, a heavy infantry soldier. On the battlefield, he showed great patience and courage. Even when others fell, he stayed in his position. His bravery was not loud or dramatic. It was the quiet courage of taking one more step, and then another without giving up. After the war, he returned to his simple life. But inside, he was no longer the same person. Seeing life and death so closely made him ask himself a question. What do I truly know? One day, a rumor spread across Athens. The Oracle of Delphi had spoken. No one is wiser than Socrates. People were shocked. How could a simple stone cutter, a quiet soldier from the war, be the wisest man in Athens? But Socrates himself was even more confused. He believed he knew very little. He felt small in front of the world's great questions. So he made a decision. I will prove the oracle wrong. He went out into the streets to find a real wise person. He walked through the markets, the public squares, and the places of power. His steps were quiet, but the questions he would soon ask would shake the whole city. From that day on, the ordinary stonecutter named Socrates began to change into someone new, a man who asked questions, a man who would later be called the Master of Questions. The center of Athens was always full of life. In the busy marketplace, the Agora, people bought and sold goods. Politicians gave speeches, and poets read their poems. In the middle of this noisy place, one man walked slowly with curious eyes. It was Socrates. After hearing the oracle's words, Socrates began to search for a truly wise person. He walked through the Agora and spoke to many people. First, he approached a politician. You say you know what justice is, Socrates said. Then tell me, what is justice? The politician was surprised. He always spoke confidently in front of crowds, but now his words began to fall apart. He gave an answer, but Socrates gently showed that the answer had contradictions. The politician finally became silent. Next, Socrates talked to a poet. The poet wrote beautiful poems. So Socrates asked him, You say your poems come from the gods, but do you understand the truth inside your own poems? The poet could not answer. He wrote the poems, but he did not truly understand their meaning. Socrates also questioned craftsmen, merchants, and young people. He did not ask to attack them. He asked because he wanted them to look inside themselves and discover what they really knew. His questions were like the work of a midwife. Just as a midwife helps a baby come into the world, Socrates helped people bring out their real thoughts. People began to call his method the Socratic method, or the art of helping ideas be born. Through these conversations, Socrates became more certain of one truth. I know that I do not know. This was not simple humility. It was the beginning of wisdom. When a person admits they do not know, they finally open the door to learning. At first, people in the Agora thought Socrates was strange. His questions made them uncomfortable. But slowly, his questions began to shake their minds and wake up their thinking. Soon, Socrates became the man who asked the most questions in Athens, and also the man who awakened the most people. His journey had only just begun. The streets of Athens were always noisy. Merchants shouted, politicians gave speeches, and poets shared their poems. The whole city felt like a living creature that never stopped moving. In the middle of this busy place, one man drew people's attention. He did not wear fancy clothes, and he had no political power. But his words were stronger than a general's command, and deeper than a poet's verses. This man was Socrates. Socrates walked through the Agora and asked questions to powerful people, craftsmen and young men. His questions were sharp, but they were filled with a desire to help others wake up. You speak about justice, he said, but do you truly know what justice is? You talk about courage, But do you understand fear? At first, people found him annoying. His questions were like a gadfly biting a horse. Uncomfortable, irritating, even painful. But this discomfort was exactly what Athens needed. Socrates said, "I am a gadfly to this great city. I must keep Athens awake." He truly wanted Athens to become a better place, and his passion began to touch the hearts of many young people. Among them was a quiet young man with deep, thoughtful eyes. He listened to Socrates' questions, wrote down his ideas, and slowly grew into a great thinker himself. His name was Plato, but Plato was not the only one. Many young men gathered around Socrates, fascinated by his way of thinking. They saw him as a teacher, a guide, and even a hero. However, not everyone loved him. The powerful leaders of Athens felt threatened. Socrates' questions exposed their hypocrisy and shook their authority. He revealed the contradictions they tried to hide. At the same time, Athens was suffering after losing the Peloponnesian War. People were angry, confused, and afraid. The city was looking for someone to blame. Then someone said, "Socrates is corrupting Athens." That small accusation spread like fire. Soon the whole city began to whisper his name, with suspicion and fear. And slowly, Socrates was pulled into the center of a growing storm. The sky over Athens was dark that day. It felt as if the whole city knew something important was about to happen. Even the wind was quiet, as if it was holding its breath. In the center of the court, all eyes were on one man. He did not lower his head, and he did not shake with fear. He simply stood there calmly, waiting for what would come. It was Socrates. He was no longer the man who asked questions in the streets. He was now the man who would be judged. The charges against him were two. He does not believe in the gods of the city, and he is corrupting the young people of Athens. Socrates had spent his whole life searching for truth, but that same search had now brought him to this courtroom. When the trial began, Socrates spoke in his own defense. His voice was steady. He did not beg for mercy. Instead, he asked the citizens of Athens why he had to stand there at all. "I have only followed the mission given to me by the god," he said. "My duty is to help people examine their lives." His words were strong, and his logic was clear, but the truth he spoke was hidden behind fear and anger in the hearts of many. He continued, "If you silence me, Athens will lose its conscience." Some people in the court felt moved by his words. Others felt even more threatened. Then came the moment of judgment. The judges cast their votes. The result was close. But in the end, the decision was death. The courtroom filled with noise. Some people lowered their heads in sadness. Others let out a quiet sigh of relief. But Socrates showed no emotion. He simply said, "I do not know what death is, but I will not abandon justice because of fear." His words echoed through the courtroom like a final lesson. That day, Athens judged one man, but in truth, it was judging itself. The morning in the prison was cold. The wind came through the small spaces between the stones, and it felt as if time itself had stopped. In that quiet room, one man sat calmly. It was Socrates. He was going to die soon, but his face showed no fear and no regret. Instead, he looked peaceful, as if he was waiting for an old friend to arrive. His students cried through the night and begged him, "Teacher, please escape. We already prepared everything. Athens is wrong. You are not guilty." But Socrates shook his head. His voice was soft, but his belief was strong. "All my life I have spoken about justice. If I run away from the city's judgment, I would betray myself." He never said the law was perfect. He often pointed out its problems. But even so, he chose to follow it as a citizen. This was his idea of justice. Time passed, and the door of the prison opened. A guard walked in with a cup of poison. His students began to cry loudly, and some turned their faces away. But Socrates took the cup, as if this moment was something he had long accepted. He said, "Perhaps death is the soul's release from the body." Even in his final moments, he talked about the soul, about goodness, and about the meaning of death. His voice slowly became weaker, but his words stayed strong in the hearts of his students. Finally, he lifted the cup and drank the poison. The liquid moved through his body like cold fire, but his face stayed calm. His last words were, "Crito, we owe a rooster to Asclepius. Please do not forget to pay the debt." It sounded like he was saying that life itself had been a kind of illness, and now he was healed. When he took his final breath, a deep silence filled the room. But in that silence, a new beginning was born. His student Plato never forgot that day. The shock of losing his teacher became the starting point of a great river of Western philosophy. Socrates died, but his questions did not. His life ended, but his ideas continued forever. He became a martyr of philosophy and a teacher for all of humanity.